I'm 27, and I'm an English teacher.
My name is Victoria. I'm from North Carolina in the United States, and I'm a teacher here now. I've been an English teacher in Korea since 2017.
Hi, my name is Maíra. I'm from Brazil, and I came here to start my master's degree in business, but eventually I got married and pregnant, and now I have Luna.
We kind of were like, let's just try and see what happens. And then if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so we tried the first time and it did happen. Really faint line. And none of us even knew, like, is a faint line like a real thing? So we went back to the pharmacist and we're like, is this positive? And he was like, yeah. And he just gave us like more tests. And he was like, just do more tests. And so we did. But then that pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. And so the second time we were a lot more mindful about how we were going to do it. And because I had a miscarriage, I was like super obsessed. And so I went to the doctor who took care of my miscarriage. And we did this thing called the timed cycle. They tell you not to test until you're missing period. But because like the booster shot has HCG, which actually like would come up and give you a false positive. But I was like so antsy. I was like, I need to know. I don't know what's going on. And so I remember taking the test and I just put it like face down in the toilet and I went out and I'm like, it's gonna be negative for sure. There's no way. And then it was positive and I was like, is this a false positive? Is this booster shot? Like, what is this? Like, I don't know. And so I kept testing every day. And then the line just kept getting darker and darker. And I was like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. And so, yeah, that was that.
It was a surprise. I'm not going to say oops or mistake. It was just a surprise. It was not expected. So it definitely changed our plans quickly. Yeah.
Pretty scared because we were dating for 3 months. So I was like, what is going to happen to me? Like, what are you going to do? So in my mind, I had like few options because I was not going to do an abortion or anything. Like, I can either stay in Korea or leave Korea. So I talked to him and like we figured it out. Like, let's go with it. And it was okay, but I was freaking out. Yeah.
It was just like, there were so many medical complications for me in my pregnancy. Like, it was just sitting around and being on bed rest, and like people would not understand why you were on bed rest. I think in Korea specifically, like when there's slightly something wrong, people like doctors would be like, you need to be on bed rest. But then when I was talking to like my friends like back home, they were just like, oh my God, that's such a common thing to go through. Like, why are you on bed rest? That's crazy. And so like all that pressure from like feeling like I don't want to be like weak was just a lot for me. Like, it really took a mental toll for me. Like, how can I please everyone when that's my pregnancy and I want to do what I want to do? And especially like it was the beginning of COVID as well. And so I was not allowed to go out anywhere. I got pregnant, well, I found out I was pregnant January 2020. So that was exactly when COVID hit.
It was like a lot of different stuff that was difficult for me because I had like epimeres gravidarium. That's like I really have morning sickness that even water, like I couldn't drink water. So I had to go to the hospital at least twice, like every 2 weeks, like every 2 days to have like IV. And so the difficult stuff was more about how the benefits that I could apply for and to find a good hospital that I could use English.
A lot of things towards the end of the pregnancy, we had expectations from the U.S., like a birth plan that in the U.S. doctors are going to follow as closely as possible as long as it doesn't interfere with the health of the baby or the mother. Not the case here. Like, we had a birth plan and we had it translated, and due to being pregnant during COVID, there were a lot more restrictions in the hospitals than what we were expecting. So it ended up being very unexpected with some of the things, like things we wanted that could not be guaranteed in the hospital.
It had the benefits, like the card is really good. We can buy a lot of, like, you can pay for our treatment, we can pay like for the medication and everything around that. And after you get like and you have birth, they pay you again like 2 million. So you can buy baby stuff or just use like around like convenience store or like supermarkets and stuff. So it was really like helpful. Another thing that was the card, like it was like a tag, a pregnancy tag that you can use like in like public transportation, and they know like, oh, she's pregnant, I should give her a seat. It not work that well. Some people like pretend they don't see it, but it works. Like if they show like, I have a car, it's not a seat, and like they let it be. KTX also, you can have like upgrade at the KTX. So if you buy, you can get like in a premium one, and you can even have like a different place for you to wait for your train. You can have this kind of thing.
So my school is very understanding. Luckily, I didn't get any like extra things though, because I didn't have a maternity leave. I just stopped teaching. Government-wise, once I had the confirmation from the doctor, then I was able to get a mommy card, or the pink card, or every bank has something different. But it pretty much just allowed me to use that money from the government to pay for appointments, anything to do with the baby. And if there had been money left over after everything, I could have used it for like diapers or formula or whatever.
Scramble to find those like sanudomi, like the wet nurse. And we called them on a Sunday, which was super costly for us, and we're like, we can't do this, please come help us. And so oh my god, like this is what I love, is that someone actually came to us on a Sunday, super last minute. We didn't even book her. It was just like we called her, and a few hours later she showed up. I was like, oh my god, like this would never happen in another country. Like I cannot see like going back home and calling someone and they're gonna come to my house. Like it just doesn't happen. And so I was just like, oh my god, like God bless. Thank you. So there's like an option for, you know, whether you book it in advance, whether you need it, whether, you know, you go to the spa. And I feel like the fact that there are so many options available to new mothers is like amazing. So in Korea, they send you a little booklet, and in the booklet, it's like specifically for your kid, and it's like a time period where your kid has to get a mandatory checkup. And there's quite a few of them, actually. I think there's like 8 of them. And so they just send you reminders like on your phone. They're like, okay, it's time for your kid to get checked up. Please book your appointment. And so it was pretty straightforward. Like there are so many times where I was like, oh my god, am I gonna forget to take her to the hospital? Am I gonna forget her vaccines? But they're really good at staying on top of it and making sure that you never forget to take her to the hospital and get her vaccine.
So Korean hospitals are quite a bit different than in the US. Not in a bad sense, it's just different, culturally different. Like the nursing certification is more closer to, I think, what like a certified nursing assistant in the US would be. So even though they can do some of the things that our nurses can do in the US, they aren't there to like be your personal helper. So besides like the blood test and checks and like just random checks that they did while I was in the hospital, you sort of fend for yourself. Michael would go to work and my meal would be brought to me. And if I wasn't, like if I was in the bathroom or down getting the baby, like spending time with Isla, they would just leave it on the floor. And after having a cesarean section, there was meat, like I couldn't bend over to pick it up. So it was a little bit of a challenge in that area. And you know, there's always that challenge if your doctor is not on the floor, which they're not, they're usually in their office or whatever. Like calling the front desk, there's that language barrier. They are nice, but they, you know, they had their job and their focus, and yeah, that was a challenge for sure.
Everything that about her, like her registration and stuff, my husband had to do it. I couldn't do it. Even if I'm the one taking her to the hospital, he needs to do some stuff because she was born like as a premature baby, and we had to sign her for the premature baby stuff. Brazil one, I need to translate her documents to English or Portuguese, so I'm going to do this because I was 3 months at home because Korea asks you to stay at home for the first 3 months, so I was waiting, and then I got sick, so a lot happened. But now I'm going to look for all the documents and give her for her other citizenship.
Waiting time was really long for COVID, and you never know when your baby's going to be born and out of the hospital and like able to go to the embassy. So there were a few things that we had to work on, but we picked a date and we're ready to change it if we had to. We actually, I think, went around her due date because she came a couple weeks early. So we had her embassy date right around then. We had to get a passport photo, which is very challenging to do with an infant that can't control their head at all. We had to get all kinds of paperwork from the hospital and from like our own personal baby, like birth certificates or whatever, marriage license, everything. Yeah, it was just a whole file full of things. And then you show up at the embassy, and the actual interview was all of 5 seconds, maybe.
Just do your best because it's everything we can do. Like, do everything that you can. Don't stress yourself like too much. If you cannot do it, breathe and go slowly. That everything's going to be fine in the end, and that's it. If you get too stressed, it's going to be not good for you and the baby, and that's not what we want. So I think that's the best thing that we can think about it.